I'm Dr. Rick Curry. I'm a professor of speech at University Park, where I've also served as a faculty fellow for online teaching and learning over the last 5 years. Online teaching is not new to me. I have taught online for over a decade now, and part of my PhD program was in online pedagogy, or the art and practice of teaching online. I'm also certified as a Quality Matters or QM Rubric instructor, as well as a QM reviewer. I'm here today to share with you some tips and techniques to help you successfully implement Section 5 of LSC-UP's online checklist. Section 5, the required components 5.1 to 5.5, deal with learner interaction. And learner interaction is one of the most crucial elements when it comes to success in an online class. I know this not from just personal experience, but also from what the research tells us. And the research has been pretty clear. Over the last 3 decades, students consistently say that they appreciate the flexibility of an online course, but that they almost always rank their online courses as being lower in terms of quality and engagement than classes that they take that are face-to-face. That's important because the research also suggests that the more students feel connected to a course or engaged with an instructor or with their peers, the more likely they are to be successful in a class. So how do we replicate the success that we tend to have in our face-to-face courses in an online medium? And it is difficult because face-to-face, you've probably found, like myself, it's much easier to build a relationship. We see our students, we can talk to them, we can ask them questions directly, we can engage in ways that is much more difficult than the ways and approaches that we can take online. But you can do it, and you can be successful in creating engagement in an online class. So let's look at Section 5 and start with 5.1. Learning activities with feedback are provided to provide. Sometimes the dog does eat our homework, a reminder. Section 5.1 says learning activities with feedback are provided to support the achievement of learning outcomes. Here's how I do that in one of my courses. So this was a 3-week public speaking course that I taught over a mini-mester. When I would go in and provide feedback, because the learning outcomes of that course, even though it's only a 3-week class, is still the same. You want to teach students skills that will help them be more successful as a public speaker. And so we talk about things like vocalics, how we use our voice, tone, pitch, speed, pace, all of those fun things. And that is really hard for students to grasp in such a short amount of time because public speaking is a skill set, meaning we get better with practice. So if we have less time to practice, then it makes the feedback even more important. So I do a few things. I go in and I provide written feedback, just like you probably have done for many of your own course assignments. But in addition, I do something different also, which would speak to Section 5.4 of learner interaction, which says that the instructor interactively engages learners in a variety of ways. And interactive engagement requires dialogue between instructor and students. So we want to open up those pathways just like we would in a face-to-face class. We want to encourage students to be able to ask us questions, to reach out for support, because that's going to increase student success. The way that I do that in terms of providing standard feedback, which would be written feedback per section 5.1 of this rubric, in 5.4, doing it in a variety of ways, is that I provide audio feedback. So for this specific student, for an example of the audio feedback, can go in and we can click it here. I hope it's Dr. Curry. I want to provide you some feedback for your informative speech. Good news, congratulations. You're halfway through with your speeches for this class. 2 down, 2 left to go, and you're doing a great job. So continue to put the effort and focus in there, and you're going to see some continued improvements. I sent over the email with you with your vocalic feedback from Speako, you'll see you did a really good job again with words per minute. A really nice job with filler words. Only one filler word per minute, which is well below the average of 3. So a great job there. Now, that's only a short snippet of the 3.5 minutes of audio feedback that I provided for that student. But what that audio feedback does in that instance is it helps create more instructor-student immediacy. So the student views me as this instructor as being more present in the class because they're getting the type of feedback that they normally associate with a traditional face-to-face class. Most online instructors don't provide video feedback. They don't provide audio feedback. They provide written feedback. And written feedback is the foundation for what you should be doing. It is section 5.1. It is the minimum requirement. But when we look at additional ways of incorporating feedback, that allows us to create that greater sense of connectiveness with our students. And they are then more likely to associate our course in a positive way, and their success, again, increases as a result. So look for ways that you can incorporate video feedback, audio feedback, in addition to the written feedback. Now, be aware that there are ADA compliance issues, so make sure that you're using closed captioning, etc. So that's going to take us to section 5.2 and section 5.3. And section 5.2 says that the instructor provides for and participates in an opportunity for self-introduction at the beginning of the course to foster a sense of community among students. So I'm back in my class and looking at some examples of how I do this. First, I can see interaction with my students also through the course of an announcement. So this was an announcement that I posted for Thanksgiving and gave them information about the Thanksgiving break. It was an online class, so unfortunately they didn't really get much of a Thanksgiving break, but I did want to post that message. Again, that's just a way of creating that sense of connection with my students. If I go into collaboration and down to course discussions, I can see my discussion forum and how I utilize the discussion boards and what I call dialogue explorations posts to create engagement on the peer-to-peer level. Because the research tells us that not only do our students want to feel connected to us, that they also want to feel connected to each other. And again, when they feel connected to each other and to us, their overall success rates is going to go up and they're going to enjoy the class more. When I look at my course introductions, so section 5.2 of the rubric says that an instructor provides for and participates in the opportunity for self-introduction at the beginning of the course. This is the icebreaker. This is getting students interested in the class and getting to know me and each other. And so I have very clear instructions on what I'm asking my students to do, to tell me about where they're from, what year are they, any pets, extra points for pets, because we all love to see pets in videos. And then why did they choose my course? And given the fact that they probably chose it as a requirement, why did they choose to take public speaking, and for instance, to fulfill their communication requirement when they had other options? And then short and long-term goals. And then lastly, I do an activity as part of my discussion forum for that self-introduction. It's like a show and tell, where I ask them to take an item from their personal space, that is meaningful to them, and to share with me and their classmates a short story. 30 seconds to a minute about why that object is meaningful. I will also post my own introduction video to share a little bit about myself, and then I will also reply to students' videos to their post and say, welcome to the class. That was so cool that you showed me your French Bulldog, etc. Another tip here that I can just give you in terms of someone who teaches online is I require my students, when we use the discussion forum through D2L, to post their videos in terms of embedded videos. And when they do this, this ensures that their videos show up like this, that the videos are posted on the screen. And I do that because of ease of use. So you can play these videos directly in D2L. And so that ease of use, that experience for students makes it easier. So when we can help them be successful using the technology that we have embedded within D2L, help set them up for that success because, again, it makes their overall experience more positive. Section 5.3 of the rubric for learning interaction talks about students being provided opportunities for student-to-student interaction and engagement designed and facilitated to build a sense of community among learners. So, for example, graded activities that involve student-initiated interaction with other students, peer discussion, group projects, team-based learning, etc. So, creating assignments that involve students being able to provide that type of peer-to-peer interaction so that students also have the ability to learn and grow from the feedback that is shared from other students. But that also leads me to section 5.5, the very last section of this rubric, and that is that the expectations for learner interaction are clearly stated, including explaining the required levels of student participation, for example, quantity and quality of interactions, length, timeliness, etc. So when I ask students to provide feedback to other students, we have to sort of prescribe what that looks like to them. We can't just say, oh, go provide feedback, or they're going to go in and say, great job, Rick, that was fantastic, best speech I ever watched. When in reality, they may not even watch the entire speech. They're just clicking off a checklist in order to complete the student feedback. So I list a very detailed set of guidelines in terms of what I'm expecting for feedback so that it's clear for my students and so that that feedback is meaningful. Here's an example of how I do that in my public speaking class. So I require student feedback as a component for every one of the speeches that my students give. And I will copy and paste this feedback blurb for every peer feedback assignment. So you will see that there is a graded requirement or component to this so that students are required to do it as part of the grade. And then I go into specific detail in regards to that the students are required to provide feedback to a minimum of 5 classmates, that each feedback response is worth 5 points, how many points that is for each speech, and total for the course in its entirety. I talk about that it must be posted before the deadline, and the deadline is always clearly identified in the materials, and that I do that to allow the students the opportunity to implement peer feedback into their next speeches. I provide a detailed graphic, here's how you do it, here's where you can find it, etc., making sure that they're tagging their speeches. I use a Facebook group page for my 3-week public speaking classes. It's just much easier to navigate than a discussion forum here in D2L. But I walk my students through how to do that, and then I give them the specific criteria. I also go into the detail here to say that just saying good job, I liked it, or I loved it, that is not going to qualify or earn credit, that you have to provide substantive feedback. And I tell them what I mean by that I want them to start with mentioning 2 things that the presenter did well, and then to provide specific feedback for at least one area where the speaker can be improved. And it could be about the content. Was the material engaging? Was it interesting? And then about engagement. How was the material delivered, including the use of props or visual aids? So I'm guiding them on the elements that they can discuss in regards to their feedback. And then this is also posted in multiple places in the course, and we call that duplicity, making sure that information is easily accessible and that students can find it in multiple places. So this is posted for this week's checklist, but it is also under the information assignment instructions, and is also posted in my syllabus. I hope you now feel a little bit more confident in regards to how you can incorporate the required components for Section 5 regarding learning interaction into your own course, but also that you have a better understanding of the significant role that learning interaction plays regarding the quality of an online course. The research is clear. When students feel connected to the material and to the course and to other students, their success rates will go up.